Alright guys, it's time for our annual meeting on who the best Rathalos is. Let's hear your arguments. Well, to start off, I'd like to say that my fireballs are definitely the coolest. Okay, I don't know that I agree with that, but regardless, my skin looks way better than any of yours. Well, you guys are just copycats, man. I'm the original, the base, the classic Coke, the best boy. Well, I think that... Boo!
Hello, my fellow hunters, and well, there are a lot of monsters in Monster Hunter. I don't even know if you realize this, but yeah. And they're all, well, broken into categories. You have subspecies, deviants, variants too. Then you have rare species, that's just it, not very long song. And today we're going to talk about all four of them. What defines each category? How do they actually work? Because each one brings something really special to the table. Like, for example, taking Rathian and then making it pink!
Oh boy! It's a pink version of the same monster.
Oh, I guess in other cases, something much cooler, like, for example, what if Nagakuga could go invisible? And that's very fun to ponder. Iceborne has a load of all of these in, and Monster in general, there's just so much more to explore when it comes to them, and maybe even a new category in the future. But with 2 more variants coming soon, it seems like a fun time to talk about how monsters are divided up. So to begin with, of course, you have the base monsters, which is just the normal, original version of a monster.
Groovy.
Subspecies then, the first to come along, and this one fairly simple too. They are very similar generally to the original, but through environmental factors such as, well, they live in an entirely different environment, they have adapted in some cases a drastically different way, such as Agnactor of Fire and Clack Clack Laser Magma, or Agnactor of Ice and Clack Clack, it's really cold, which is a very stark difference and probably the starkest of all the differences in the subspecies. And really, if we look to real life, it's basically African elephant or Indian elephant. They have different ear shapes, for example, different tusks. They are subspecies of elephant. But we do have a few really weird cases. The probably most stark example is Black Diablos, which is a female Diablos in heat, which isn't really a subspecies. It's a variant if you want to categorize it, but it's definitely not an entirely different order of Diablos, so it's kind of curious that that ended up in the subspecies camp. Then you have something like Red Kezu, which is actually, well, a normal Kezu, and the white ones are the weird ones because they're all albino Kezu, which would make them variants. So it's, again, a little bit kind of topsy-turvy, but that's, I think, mainly the first generation. Anything that wasn't the base form just kind of got made as subspecies, and it got kind of diversified into the other categories and more organized as time went on. So there are a few oddballs, but generally, it's the same based monster, but adapted to different environments, or living conditions, or other factors of just the world around it that has had it over a long time diverge, sometimes a little, sometimes a lot, from its base form. Now, I have to give my favourite subspecies. It used to be Glacial Agnactor, but now I can't deny that it is Coral Pookie Pookie.
No matter who wins, one thing is certain. You won't get wet. You'll get soaked. Super Soaker.
I just adore how creative it is. What a wonderful answer to the question, what happens if a coral adapts to the Pookie Highlands? You get, did I just, you know what, I'm gonna leave that in. You get this magnificent creature. So moving on then to rare species. Now, technically speaking, all rare species are still subspecies. You could call this rare subspecies. They're still a group of a base monster that adapted to somewhere different and as a result are how they are. So, for example, Abyssal Lagiacrus is Lagiacrus that have adapted to the very deep ocean, where the pressure is much more intense, yet his scales don't buckle and crack, so they are very much stronger than the scales found on his very much shallower counterpart. He's also gone dark as night to perfectly blend in, and so on and so forth, but they are, well, very rare. They also tend to be very, very powerful. Silver Rathalos and Gold Rathian are the first two that we got. In their case, it's an exceptionally rare genetic mutation that has them be silver and gold, which would paint them as variants, but again, first generation kind of just categorize things a little bit weirdly, so rare species they are, but for example, Molten Tigrex, that's just a Tigrex adapted to a fiery volcanic environment. So somewhere out there's a secluded lava field where a family of Tigrex are exploding the fuck out of everything that moves for miles around. We've just never found it. Same with Lucent Nagakuga in probably some mystical, faraway, hidden subterranean jungle somewhere, and we've only seen a couple that have ventured far and wide from where they're naturally found. So if we wanted to look to our real world to try and find something kind of rare species-y, you have the Iguana, which are, your green iguana, vicious little bastards, but I love them because they're lizards, and they are plentiful, and they're the normal base, well, monster in this case. And then far away on the island of Galapagos, there is the marine iguana that has, well, adapted very differently and has learnt the ability to swim powerfully through the ocean and nibble at the little bits of greenery growing on the sea floor. And that would be, in this case, a rare species, still an iguana, but very much not as common as the normal green one, and a lot more capable in that, it can fucking swim. So, there's only a small amount of them compared to normal iguanas. They can swim, one island in the world, rare. Like the secret volcano that Molten Tigrex are breeding in. I bet that place is hot. Either way, my favourite of the rare species is Lucent Nagakuga, because really, the ultimate stealth assassin being able to go literally invisible, yeah, that's a pretty good idea right there. And very, very scary, and very, very deadly. Variants are up next, and these guys are interesting. So they are genetically identical to the monster that it is a variant of, but they have a few unique traits caused by something that you can reliably replicate that set them apart. For example, Brachydios to Raging Brachydios. Deep in the volcano, there is a super potent version of the slime that they have a symbiotic relationship with. Now, this super potent slime, if a normal Brachydios, well, coats himself in it, 9 out of 10 of them cannot handle it. The explosions are too potent, it cracks their shell, and they die. The 1 in 10 that can handle it, well, get a lot stronger and become Raging Brachydios and start, well, getting use out of the immortal reactor organ that essentially grants them eternal life unless they're stabbed to death by stabby implements. So, inherently, every Brachydios that successfully bonds with Super Slime becomes Raging Brachydios. Rajang to Furious Rajang. Well, it's had its tail chopped off, and its power has exploded uncontrollably, and it's permanently enraged. You take a Rajang, you chop its tail off, you let it live, you got yourself a Furious Rajang. Reliably replicable. That's the key difference then between variants and deviants that we'll get onto. Deviants are very much random, rare, and unique, and kinda just sorta happen, whereas variants have some sort of reason or rhyme or order to them, but they do result in an obscenely powerful version of a monster. Now, you could argue whether rare species or variants result in the, well, more powerful creature, but I would have to tip my hat to variants just because I think they're even rarer to occur than the rare subspecies, and rarity tends to equal power when it comes to the Monster Hunter world. But of course, on a case-by-case basis, that might not be true, because Shrieking Legiana would get donked by most of the rare species, but then again Furious Rajang or Runiner Gigante would dunk most of the rare species, so you gotta kinda just look at it like that. In real life then, for variants, a good example would be pigs. On the farm, huge, slow, generally pinkish, you know what a pig is, release them into the wild and they're now feral hogs, which are much stockier, brown fur, and generally much more capable animals that can actually look after themselves. And despite them being, well, genetically identical, they are very different indeed. So one of these can be the variant of the other, whichever one you want to think of as the base. My favorite of the variants has to be a certain raging Brachydios, as of course he is the variant of my favorite monster, and he's just fantastic! Super punches, super slime, a super good time!
He's mine!
Moving on finally then to Deviants! Now, these ones are very interesting. All Deviants could be considered variants, but not all variants Deviants. So Deviants are very much an individual, a unique, single member of a species that through something, generally a hunter encounter that they've survived, has changed, learnt, and grown in a very, very different way. The, of course, best example of this is Bloodbath Diablos, who had his horns lopped off by a hunter when he was a little'un, and then he decided upon revenge. And he trained, he fought, he got angry, he coats himself in the blood of all he slays, and he slays all he sees, and he gets so royally furious with the world that his body temperature rises to the point that the blood coating his hateful body bursts into steam, explosively heated up, and scalds every living thing around him. Now, if you take any given baby Diablos and chop off its horns, you're not going to create a Bloodbath Diablos. You might create something entirely different. You might not change it at all. It might just die because it has no horns to fight other Diablos with for territory. Anything could happen. So that's the thing, right? You can't replicate a Deviant. It's very random, very rare. And of course, they're all in Monster Hunter Generations / Generations Ultimate, created for that, and they're kind of ridiculous. They really are. They take things to absolute extremes, and while all of them have their justifications, it is definitely something a bit above and beyond. The only one of them that I think maybe you could get away with just saying it's a variant is Thunderlord Zinogre, since its whole shtick is it starts fully charged up and then can charge up even beyond, which is very similar to Savage Devil Joe starts angry and can get even angrier for a super angry mode. So something like that you could definitely consider it, but generally they are very, very unique individuals that through some kind of experience they have had on a personal level, they have learnt, changed, and grown more powerful, and generally speaking as well, more annoyed with everything that is human. So there you have it with your Deviants. If we had to go for Deviant in real life, that one is obviously harder, but there is a certain tiger that got injured by a hunter but not killed, and that made it very, very angry. So it tracked down the hunter's cabin, broke in, waited for near 12 hours for the hunter to get back, and then murdered his face off. Which, to be fair, is very kind of Bloodbath Diablos-y, right? It, granted, didn't develop, super tiger powers, but that mentality, that individual change to be like, you know what? Fuck that guy. He fucking shot me. I'm gonna find him, and I'm gonna kill him. And that is a deviant behavior in that tiger. He just revenge killed him. So yeah, there you go. Deviant tiger. That's about the best I can do for you. My favourite deviant then, I want to say Bloodbath, but I keep going back and forth between him and Nightcloak Malfestio because I love owls so much. And he can go invisible, and it's very fun, and he's very pretty, and I love him, and I really, really, really want Malfestio in general to come to World, because it would be absolutely incredible. So here is some food for thought then. You could have a rare species, okay, and a group of those rare species could go to a different environment and adapt to it over a period of time, resulting in a subspecies of the rare species. A member of this new rare subspecies could then go through a process that turns into a variant, something reliable, something that works on all of them, and it is now a rare subspecies variant. That individual that's now become a variant can have a traumatic hunter experience, which will turn it into a deviant. It'll learn some new stuff, and maybe gain some strength, or however it happens. So technically speaking, it is possible to have them all. You could have a monster that is a rare subspecies variant deviant. I guess that would be like a legendary species, and that would be a lot of fun, right?
Mother of God.
And then if we were to ask which of these categories is best, it's easy to say, oh, subspecies is worse because they're most boring, but they do have their place, and you could say, oh, definitely deviants are most fun because they're crazy, but again, they might be too crazy. I think all four of them have such merits, and well, Monster Hunter is better for having all of them in, so it might be a cop-out, but I don't think I can choose. They're all just fantastic. So, here's looking forward to the next pair, and hopefully this has been somewhat fun to listen to. Let me know what you guys' favourite of each is. I will of course be reading all the comments as I always do. Hopefully we can have a nice little discussion, but until then, like if you've enjoyed this, subscribe for more, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Rage Gaming with the video float.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you even though the outro's no longer that kind of relevant. But the new one's being worked on and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.